Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our show. This is the Al Islam and Community Issues Group. And today we're going to be talking about the different understandings and applications of the religion of Al Islam. We'd like to open up with giving our God, Almighty God Allah all the praise. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. With the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, all the praises and thanks belong to Allah. Ameen. I'll be your host today, Brother Benjamin Shabazz, along with Brother Julius Anwar. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
How you doing?
Good, good.
All right, all right. So I was talking to a gentleman about the situation in the quote-unquote Muslim world and some of the suffering that goes on in the Muslim world. And it was kind of hard for me to grasp how you could have these Muslim countries where you have billionaires in them and they have all these edifices they done built and they have all this money, kind of like disposable money, you know, they just throwing around. And at the same time, you have situations like the people in Palestine, the Muslims in Palestine, the Muslims in Rohingya and other places who are being persecuted and massacred, really. And why there's no assistance from Muslim to Muslim, you know, from those that have to those that have not, why there's no assistance. And we were having this discussion, and then he started telling me, he said, well, look at it like this. He said, you can grow up in a town or a city and you have people around you that you go to work with, go to school with. You have Caucasian people, right? Mm-hmm. And they witness the plight in the neighborhood. They witness it right along with you. They witness it. They witness the discrepancies and the prejudice and the, you know, black males being shot and killed, and then the police go on paid vacation. They never get charged. Some of them never get indicted. If they do, they get freed. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They witness all these things, and then, boom! All of a sudden, they come in contact with Islam, right? And they disappear. And he said he called him the disappearing white boy. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He says, well, you think about this. What do? They go overseas, they learn Arabic. They go to Jordan, they go to Egypt, some go to Africa, Morocco, different places like that. They learn Arabic. And they also learn Islamic history or things like that. They come back to America, you don't see them in your neighborhood. You know, you don't see them following the Quran where it says that we must stand against oppression. You don't see them anymore. They got a turban on, thobe on, sandals, and the whole accent, they turn into an Arabic, a foreign accent, you know.
Right.
Brother, assalamu alaikum, brother, how are you today? And I'm saying, man, you've been away, man. I know you learned a lot, man. You can come back and help us, man. And all they do is travel around the country giving khutbahs, giving lectures. And that has always puzzled me, that how can a Caucasian that has lived in America and seen the plight of African Americans and then go away and quote unquote learn Islam, then come back to America and refuse to get involved in helping out people, helping out the oppressed people? That has always puzzled me. So my friend was saying it's called a disappearing white boy. And I thought that was funny, that the way he used that term. He was white himself, you know, the way he used that term. So then I started doing some investigation, and I noticed that a lot of Caucasian people that have become quote unquote scholars, They abandoned us, man. They abandoned us. Quickly they abandoned us. They abandoned our struggle. They abandoned the people who have fought and given their lives, blood and treasure for our struggle and our upliftment. They don't even mention that. They don't even mention that. Unless you mention that, and then they'll say, oh, yeah, but let's move on with my agenda. And my agenda is that Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every time they speak, they quote Arabic, And then, Prophet Muhammad, he ate vegetables with the two fingers of his right hand, and he stepped in the masjid with his right foot. What's okay, so how does that help me? How does that help the neighborhood with all this knowledge you got? It's almost like it's irrelevant, man. But he's swearing up and down that he's a Muslim scholar. You have any comment on that?
It's not only not speaking in an Islamic context, but like a lot of people leave the hood, the struggle, and move to the suburbs, like so. And like there's people who support Trump who are black, and that's kind of, it doesn't make sense, but they're there.
Yeah, I see your point, and this is true. But I'm kind of saying when you become a Muslim,
Right.
the concept of being a Muslim is to help the needy, help the man that is down,
Right.
help the poor, help correct the wrongs in society.
Right.
These other situations, people trying to get away from the madness.
Right.
And it's like, to say you support Trump, that's kind of like, well, if I support Master, maybe Master throw me some extra bones.
Right.
Maybe I don't have to work to can't see in the morning to can't see at night. Maybe I can go in the house and work, But so there's no mandate there for them to try to correct anything. It's just them trying to release themselves from all this pressure, see.
Mm-hmm.
But for Islam, when we say we follow Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, right? We are following him not in dress, but we're following him in actions. And Prophet Muhammad was taught that you're supposed to, one of the contents of being a Muslim is you're supposed to help the man that's down. You're supposed to come to his rescue. You're supposed to free the slave. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This is the whole purpose of being a Muslim is to lift society up. And it seems like that there's an understanding in Islam that is void of that. That's what I'm trying to say. It's void of that. It's all about what somebody did 400 years ago, 1,400 years ago. How they crossed the street, you know what I'm saying? How they treated their horse or something like that. It's like irrelevant things, just irrelevant. This is what has always puzzled me about the Muslim world, period. But when it comes to people that weren't raised Muslims, they just came into the religion, and then all of the suffering around them, they just abandoned it. And then when they came back, they're on this whole level. It's almost like they've been knocked in the head. Yeah. And put in some kind of incubator and taught this crazy stuff, but to claim that they're Muslim. They got beads and brushing their teeth with a stick, you know what I'm saying? And it's okay, fine. But now how do we address racism here in America? In the hood you came out of, Oh, brother. That's like magic almost to me. It's like somebody hit him with a wand, ding, and they turn into Peter Pan, man. So that's what I was focusing on. So my friend was saying it's called a disappearing white boy, and I know there's 2 or 3 of them that have become very popular. They grew up here in America, become very popular scholars, and they don't have nothing to do with black people, man. not, well, I put it like this. They can't openly say they don't have nothing to do with black people because that's against Islam. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have anything to do with the issues that black people suffer from. They don't come in and say, well, this is the cause of this, or this is how we're going to stop this, or we're going to stand up for this. Now, that's not all of them, but too many of them. Too many of them. Like, there's a sister in the city, and I don't know if I should mention her name, and I'm not going to mention her name. I'm just going to put it out there. She's an immigrant, very successful lady in American society, you know, and she decided to devote herself to standing up for Muslim issues. And I saw her the other day with a T-shirt on. And now she's from, I'm not sure what country she's from, but it's not a black country, right? Mm-hmm. On this T-shirt it says, all lives can't matter until black lives matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's a real issue. That's a real issue. And she put that T-shirt on, man. My respect level for her just, because it's like immigrant Muslims are afraid to deal with the issue of black people in America. But yet they want us to come up under them and learn something. And I don't see what we can learn other than Arabic, you know? And it's like, you come over here, what you gonna teach us when you got big problems back home? Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why you left there, you know? Huge problems back home, man. Police states, dictatorships. But still, I'm asking the question, why don't these super rich Muslim countries, they got militaries and everything, how come they don't help these poor Muslims out here, like Palestine and Rwanda and other places where they're getting massacred? How come they don't come to their aid?
Look at what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Okay.
So,
Well, give me an example. What you mean?
if they did intervene militarily, you know, the U.S. is gonna react to that, right? Because Israel and the U.S. are allies. So that's why I would see them not reacting militarily, you know. And then, I mean, like Saudi Arabia and Israel are allies, you know. So, you know, it's a delicate situation. Like, and I see what's going on in Mexico in the U.S. border. It seems like when they say build the wall, you think about the Berlin Wall, right? But now, how Trump is talking about, you know, the people coming from Honduras, and they're putting military, that looks like it's gonna be like Palestine, you know? But yeah, I mean, it would seem like when you see Dubai that they could help in Palestine, right? You don't see that. You know?
So my question is, where is the Islam
Right.
outside of rituals? Where is Islam? Like, what would Prophet Muhammad do?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And everything that I study and read about Prophet Muhammad, he'd be on the case. He'd be on the case. And so I you know, opened up the show talking about the different understandings of Islam. And it baffles me how people can remove themselves from a situation that's obviously crying out for Islam to come into its midst and help them get out of the situation that they're in and go into this world of being exotic, you know what I mean? Oh, I want to learn this, I want to learn that, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. Somebody invited me the other day to a meeting where they were going to have Islamic art, you know. I didn't say nothing to him, man. I said, but what's that got to do with us getting shot and killed out here in these streets. You know, just the other day, a brother got shot and killed who was a security guard, who was apprehending a man, a Caucasian man who had just shot up this bar. And then, you know, they called the police. The police came and shot the brother with his security shirt on and everything. They shot the brother, no questions asked. Just automatically shot and killed him. You know, situation where the policeman come home and goes inside an apartment and shoots the man in there and then says she thought it was her apartment and he was a thief.
Right.
You know, Mrs. Every day is something crazy. And so it's very difficult for me to be around people who are Muslims. You know, you want to be a brother, a sister to your Muslim brother and sister, but they just seem to ignore your existence, ignore your past. Like it don't matter what happened. You know, I'm having an Islamic art show. You know, that's really what's important. You know. Yeah, that's always been a puzzle. But what I did was I brought these verses from the Quran, right? This is in chapter 4, An-Nisa, and this is verse 75. It says, "And why should you not fight in the cause of Allah, and of those who being weak are ill-treated and oppressed, men, women, and children, whose cry is, 'Our Lord, rescue us from this town,' whose people are oppressors, and raise for us from thee one who will protect, and raise for us from thee one who will help." I mean, that's kind of like clear, isn't it? Then the next verse says, "Those who believe fight in the cause of Allah, and those who reject faith fight in the cause of evil. So fight ye against the friends of Satan. Feeble indeed is the cunning of Satan." So, I mean, when I read things like this, you know, I'm ready to get up and stand up for what's right, you see. But I just keep seeing too many disappearing white boys for me. And it's even black people too, you know. They'll take the same route.
Yeah.
They'll take the same route. And they'll be speaking with an accent and talking about Abu, somebody said this, you know, it's 1,400 years ago. But it doesn't apply to what's going on today in contemporary living. And especially those of us who are new Muslims. But when I studied the history of Prophet Muhammad, he didn't just deal with Muslims. He dealt with the society.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So if a person is having a problem, you don't have to be a Muslim for a Muslim to come to your rescue. That's my point. That's my point. And there's hadith that talk about all the time, says when you see a wrong, you're supposed to do what?
Correct.
Yep, correct it. Move against it. Then they give us 3 ways. The Prophet gave us 3 ways. One is with your hand, physical force. And we can't do that all the time, see. The second time is speak on it. Use your tongue, speak on it. And the third way is at least have it in your heart that you hate it, what's going on. Then we're warned that just having it in your heart is the weakest form. So action is required. Action is required. And I set up under too many people where they don't deal with it, period. They don't deal with anything that's going on out here, period. And so as an African American, I'm a victim of a lot of this stuff that's going on out here. That's like saying, you don't matter, you know? You don't matter, because the most important thing that we should be dealing with is which side Prophet Muhammad slept on. You know, they talk about stuff like that. You know, he slept on his right side, so you should sleep on your right side. Or he slept on this side, or, you know. That's, man, come on, man. And then here's the other thing. You got people flooding into these classes, sitting up there with their eyes, oh, oh really? Really, like they learning something.
Right.
Man, this is crazy, man. See, it's, to me, Islam came, and Prophet Muhammad came, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, as a liberator.
Right.
A liberator.
So how do you feel about black people who give up on the struggle?
I have more sympathy for them.
You do?
Yeah, because they weren't raised up with Islam, number one.
Right.
Number two,
So when they do become Muslim,
well, I find some people are very sincere, but what they're being taught, they're taught all this fluff stuff, see, that has no relevance to reality, see, and they just soak it all in. But for black people, I find that also it's an escape,
right?
you know, because if I'm become a Muslim, I'm not a nigga anymore. Don't look at me as a nigga anymore. Look at me as a Muslim associated with Arabs. You know, so it's almost like they're trying to jump into a camp to get protection. You know, and they wear all this crazy stuff and they walk around and it's basically saying, hey, I'm not a nigga anymore. I'm not a nigga anymore, so don't treat me like one, see?
Right.
But they haven't, even those don't understand what Islam is all about. And then the question is, well, do you know what Islam is all about? I just read it,
Right.
you know? Allah makes it clear in the Quran where he says that I have shown you two highways, you know, but you have not chosen the steep path. And then he goes on to explain what the steep path is, you see. The first thing is freeing the slave. You know, looking after the orphan, you know, all these things. So here you got a whole race of people. It's almost like, you know what, it's almost like these people have been beaten down so much that they will go for anything. So let me come in here and sell my wares. They sound like used car salesmen, you know. Let me go in here and set up shop and sell my Islam to them, so they will come up under me. And I've talked to some of these so-called scholars, man. They don't know nothing about American history, nothing. And it's almost, to them, it's almost like it's irrelevant. We don't care. We want to make sure that there's no hair coming out from underneath the sister's hijab. We want to make sure that you use a mishwak instead of toothpaste when you brush your teeth. You know, all these things are important to them, which are not important to anybody, really, when people are suffering. And so to take it away from African Americans, let's go to the Muslims who are suffering all over the world. And Palestine is a good example. And like you mentioned about Israel and Saudi Arabia being allies and things like that. So does that mean that as a Muslim scholar or a Muslim learned person, a Muslim man or woman of knowledge, you're not supposed to say nothing?
Well, you know I don't know his name, but the guy in Turkey
Yeah,
who got killed,
yeah.
and they can't even find his body, you know.
Yeah, well, what was he protesting?
I don't know exactly, but he was speaking up against oppression, and he was speaking up against the prince
Right.
in Saudi Arabia.
Was he speaking up against oppression or just speaking up against the prince?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, if you actually fear for your life, like that's why the prophet said there's three ways. There's physical force, and then there's speak on it, right? Well, at least hold it in your heart. If you fear for your life or you can't speak on it and you can't physically change it, you have it in your heart, then you find a way to speak on it. You know, leave the situation. You know what I'm saying? Go somewhere else. But I mean, I never hear anybody speaking out against anything. Period. And the Palestinians are steady catching hell. I mean, I'm talking about here in America,
Right.
when these traveling imams and sheikhs and all that, I never hear them talk about Palestine, Rohingya, or the suffering in America amongst the African Americans. I never hear them utter one word. But they'll talk about what Omar did and what Omar said, and Omar was riding his camel, and it got too hot, so he got off his camel and he started walking his camel, so he gives the camel some rest. You know, I mean, stuff like that. Like that's supposed to be Islam. A lot of them, they're not going to bring up Malcolm X unless somebody else brings it up. I mean, you can't deny it. You cannot get around bringing his name up, you know, Muhammad Ali. But they won't talk about Imam Warfdi Muhammad. They won't talk about Elijah Muhammad. They won't talk about all the struggles of black people in this country just trying to get respect, you know, like Carter G. Woodson, Medgar Evers, MLK, all the black inventors and things, because they don't know it. They don't care to know it. But yet they want us to sit up under them like little babies and to take notes, you know. And they're not telling us anything that we can apply to our life. That's what I'm really trying to say, that we can apply to our life from this book, from the life of Prophet Muhammad, to help us. They want them to follow them. I've been in some situations, man, where the cat was introducing himself. 15 minutes, all he talked about was the honor that scholars are supposed to get. You know, the honor the scholars are going to be in paradise next to the prophet. The scholars this and scholars that. Scholar. And by the time they finish, you sitting up there and says, okay, that's enough. You know, whatever you say, I believe it, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that subject. I'm glad you can sit in with me on it. And different understandings of Islam. Islam to me is a religion that liberates us from any kind of slavery except for the slavery to Allah. Liberates us. You know? And I think black people need to not be so gullible, but want to stand on their own 2 feet. Thank you for helping me out and sitting on as a co-host. And to our audience, thank you for watching.